Hey everyone, welcome back to another SAT math video. This is from the official practice test number 6, the first math module. We have a graph of a parabola, and they're saying the graph of y equals 2x squared plus bx plus c is shown, where b and c are constants, and they're asking us what is the value of bc, or in other words, what is the value of b times c. So this one is kind of a difficult problem, but if you know two formulas, or actually if you just really need to know one formula in order to figure this one out, and if you have this formula, you will be able to solve this one no problem. So the formula is x equals minus b over 2a, right? So when you have parabolas, right, there's a couple of different formulas that you probably have learned when when you took, algebra 1 or algebra 2. This is one of the formulas that you likely were taught. And what does this formula tell us? Well, this formula, when you apply it for a quadratic equation, basically tells you what the x coordinate will be at the vertex, right? The vertex is this point right here, or in other words, the point in which the parabola changes direction, right? Like you can see here, it's going down, 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 down. It's the vertex and it goes up. And if you had like the other way around, if you had like a parabola that was like facing down, like where the u was or kind of pointing towards the bottom of the graph, the vertex would be at that point, right? So in any case, to find the x coordinate of the vertex, you use this formula, right? So we could use this formula to basically solve for b, right? And you know me, I like to always solve the equations for the variable I want without plugging in the numbers first. That way, when you have to come and plug in the numbers, you don't have to do as many calculations. So you'll see what I mean in case you haven't seen me do that before, right? So what I'm going to do is basically take this equation and solve for b. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2a. That cancels out. That cancels out. We get 2ax is equal to minus b, or in other words, b is equal to minus 2ax, right? And now we can just plug in the numbers that we know and solve for b, right? So you might be wondering, what is a? Well, remember, in a quadratic equation, the first coefficient in the I guess the squared term, that will be a. The second coefficient is going to be b, and then the constant term, or the term without any variable attached, is going to be c, right? So they actually named it b and c for us here, but we had to basically know that the first one is a, right? So we know that a is going to be 2. What about x? How do we figure out what x? Well, remember this equation, x equals minus b over 2a, that is for corresponding to the x coordinate of the vertex, right? The vertex is this point right here, right? The point in which the parabola changes direction is the vertex. And we can see that the vertex lies on minus 1, right? Because we see if we go minus 1, minus 2, okay. So we know that this tick mark is minus 1. So this x has to be minus 1, because again, this is basically the equation of the vertex, right? And we get the x coordinate of the vertex using that equation. So I probably said that a bunch of times, but I'm trying to make it very clear that what this equation is used for. So hopefully you get it by now. In any case, we can just simplify this now. So the minus and minus is going to give us a positive 1. We don't really care about that. So that's going to be positive 4. So b is equal to positive 4. Great. Now we have one of the coefficients for this equation, and we can basically now just have to solve for c, and then we can figure out what bc is, right? So how can we solve for c? Well, like any equation, if you have all the other values and you need to solve for a constant, you can just plug in a point on the equation, or a point on the line of the equation, right? And solve for that constant, right? So I'm going to choose this point. And this point is like 0. What is it going to be? It's going to be 0, comma, or not 0. Actually, is it 0? No, I'm tripping. It's going to be -3, right? Because that's the x value. So if we go look here, -1, -2, yep, that's -3, comma 0, yeah, because it's on the x-axis, but so we know that the y value is going to be 0, and then just 3 tick marks that way. Okay, that's fine. So what we're going to do again is first rearrange our equation and solve for c, right? Because it makes our lives much easier. Or me personally, I think it makes our lives easier. So what we got to do is just basically subtract 2x squared and then subtract bx, and then what we're left with is c. Now let me move down a little bit. So then we are left with c is equal to y minus 2x squared minus bx. And then if you want to be like extra fancy, you could factor out the x, but I'm not going to do that. So now we just need to plug in our numbers, right? So y is 0, x is -3, and we know what b is. B is +4. So let's plug all that in. So c is equal to 0 minus, and then what is our x? X is -3, so -3 squared minus b. B is 4, so that's going to be 4 right there. And then 4 times x, and remember x is -3, and that is what c is going to be. So that's 0. This -2 times -3 squared, well, -3 squared is going to be 9. 9 times 2 is going to be 18. And remember, it's negative, so we're going to have a -18. So that's going to be -18. And then we have -4 times -3. That is going to be +12. So we will get -18 plus 12, which would be nothing more than -6, right? So we have our b, we have our c. What is b times c? Well, that's going to be nothing more than 4 times -6, which is equal to -24. So there you have it. That is the solution for this problem. It was actually a pretty tricky problem, I'm not going to lie. So if the main thing you have to really know is the quadratic equations vertex formula, right? Or not quadratic equation, but the vertex of a parabola formula, right? I'll just write it again just in case you missed it. So x equals minus b over 2a. This formula gives us the vertex's x coordinate for any given parabola, right? What is the vertex? The point in which the parabola changes direction, and the x coordinate is represented using this formula. And once you had that, you basically were able to solve for b by rearranging the equation. And then once you had b, you could solve for c by choosing any point on the parabola and then plugging in the x, y, and b value and then solving for c, right? So not super complicated so long as you understood this formula and then understood that you could use that b value and plug it in to the original equation, so long as you chose a point and then kind of solve from there for c. So I said a lot of words this video. Hopefully that made sense. Let me know in the comments if it didn't make sense, and I can try and make maybe a simpler explanation for this video. As always, check out Khan Academy. It is a great resource with a lot of SAT, ACT practice, as well as for other subjects in case you are an independent learner or maybe just like to learn. And of course, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.